Hello everybody. This video is about the hunger and fullness scale. So some common questions that come up, just what it is, how to work with it, and some roadblocks that you might hit when you're working with just this idea of a hunger and fullness scale. It seemed to be common. So first of all, what is it? I first heard about it myself from Janine Roth, but I've seen it referred to in tons of mindful eating. It's just a way of considering a scale, like from extreme hunger to absolute fullness and everything in between. And it's got kind of a linear thinking mind kind of way of thinking of it, like here we are looking at a scale. 0 being the most famished, hungry, empty, starving, without food that you've maybe ever been in your life. And 10 would be the most full, stuffed, satiated, filled up that you have ever been in your life that you can imagine. Now those can be, because I was a binge eater and bulimic, this was absolutely, would get so extreme. It was amazing. And I would also starve myself and spent 2 years fully anorexic without one binge ever, in total control, willpower, and I was empty, fasting, starving. So most of you have experienced such an extreme like that. I feel like I'm just aware many times of both sides. Very extreme. Right down in the middle is number 5. The idea with the scale then is first just feeling what matches that. It's completely up to you. No one else can feel that except for you, right? So you just have to sense it. Where am I? And if I gave it a number, what would I give it? If I had to give it a number. It's okay if you feel like you want to say 3.5. Right now, it's not that long ago that I ate lunch, and I'm at about a 6, 5.5. Just very, almost neutral, but I can feel it right there. And so trying to do that also with a very open mind that there's no right or wrong, that if you're at a 9 or an 8 in fullness, there isn't something wrong with you. That's not what this is talking about. It's just giving it a label. It's as if, you're up here on the end and that's a red, bright red, and you're just noticing the color, noticing the number. All the way down here, you're very, empty. You haven't eaten for hours. There is no food available because you're traveling, whatever it is, you're at a 1. You're just noticing. Sometimes this labeling itself of the numbers can shift and change as you feel into your body more. And you might sense that, I don't know, some things just can change as far as it comes to that, because some of us haven't really looked at the body so much, and it almost has to get very extreme before we even really begin to feel it. Sometimes people report not being sure what hunger actually feels like, and they can't even tell until they're super stuffed. All of a sudden, they're just really, full, and they were numb before that. One thing that's good to know is the more you just consider the hunger scale. If I did have to put a number on how I feel right now, what would it be? It's like the pain management scale, and if you've ever been to people in hospitals and nurses and doctors and other medical practitioners will ask you on a scale of 0 to 10, how high is your pain? And some people have very, high pain thresholds and report lower than what really matches, for a while. And then, you just have to you become more in tune, and it might change. So it's just something to work with, to give a number. It's a self-assessment, of course. And what we're trying to do here is just noticing that it feels really good to be between a 3 and a 7 most of the time. That's like this really, kind of bringing the scale in and staying in a range that's not swinging way far out for one side or the other too far. so that a feeling sense in the body, we're just simply not swinging. We're not letting ourselves get too hungry, and we're not letting ourselves get too full. And sometimes people, even when they have specific dietary needs and plans and things that they are allergic to and absolutely cannot eat, or that this is some part of their way of eating, they still may notice, I need to eat a little more of this thing over here because I really am getting very, very hungry. I need to eat maybe a little less of this because I'm quite full. I'm not hungry at all. We've all heard of different kinds of food plans, for example. Maybe there are kinds of diets that are given to two completely different kinds of people. One person that has twice the body weight of the other, and but they're all on the same plan, and that the individual sense of being something individual here gets lost. So it really is important to sit and see what feels right for you in a really genuine way. If you are the most caring, compassionate, loving person that's being very kind to yourself, noticing the comfort, being in a human body of being between a 3 and a 7. It is also very, very joyful to let yourself get down to the 3, even a little lower, who knows? Because it's so much fun to eat when you're hungry. It is not that fun. Right now, food seems completely unappealing to me. I've had a meal and I'm satisfied. So at the feeling level in the body, just to notice that there's a great pleasure in when you're really thirsty. Doesn't water taste amazing? Just like, oh my God, that feels so good. But that's a wonderful feeling. And you get that by allowing the life to move forward in the body and the landing and moving towards the 3 or lower. And then it also feels really good to just notice satisfaction come and then to stop and move on to other things. Then eating becomes something you're aware of again when it's tipping down the scale and moving towards a 3, and there's a need to eat. This is constantly going on in the body. There's always a shift and a change. You'll always get to eat again. Except, I suppose, on our deathbed. There will be a time when we don't get to eat again, but when we go to sleep at night, we don't eat for the night. Get up in the morning until we're awake. So that's the hunger scale, and it's a beautiful guide for us living in bodies with food. And what's lovely is it's based first and foremost, that's the number one thing that's in the lead, is the feeling in the body of hunger or fullness. That takes precedent over everything, not just it takes precedent over even what kinds of foods you are particularly interested in at the moment. There's a big difference between a cold salad and a hot soup. But the feeling in the body, no matter what you're eating, either one of those things will feel different as you consume them and as you chew and eat and notice the feeling in the body between bites. And you may have more bites for one than the other in the big scheme of things, but it's not necessary to count the bites or the measurement or the calories or the content of the food. The most important thing within is the measurement of the feeling in the body of whether you're hungry or full. So that's the hunger scale. And we lead the way with that. We let the body be far more in charge than we've ever let it be. We really have wanted, when we're compulsive around food and eating, I certainly was, for the mind and our feelings to be in charge. They're running everything. They override the feelings of the body every time when we let them, when we believe our thoughts, when we believe our feelings need to be managed or responded to or fixed. And it's just simply noticing, I'm going to take seriously the body. The body's the leader, the feeling in the body. Now, one little common stumbling block, and it's just something that you get in the practice or habit of, just like learning how to meditate and sit still quietly and watching, or learning how to walk, or learning how to ride a bicycle, is that some people say it's been so long since they really felt hunger or fullness, or that suddenly they're hungry or suddenly they're full. And the main thing that I'll say to that, for the purpose of just being with the hunger scale here, is that will not remain the same, that this is never a static thing. The more you attend and just be with the subtle feelings of hunger and fullness, just tap into what's there, you'll begin to feel things in a more quiet, gentle way. It's like somebody just leaning in and listening closely. If you were listening to something very closely in a very quiet room, and you just lean forward to listen and hear everything that's in the room, you would begin to pick up, if you slowed down, even close your eyes, you would begin to pick up quiet sounds. You would be able to hear, and it would be right there. And it will just become more open to you. It will be more available to you the more you practice it. And it might happen far quicker than you ever imagined. One other thing I'm going to mention before I stop about the hunger and fullness scale is just simply feeling hunger and feeling fullness. Hunger seems to shift, like growling stomach that's actually making sounds. And you feel is really empty and the acids are flowing. That seems to be something that even in hunger, even if you don't eat any food, can change. Incredible hunger, and then it sort of changes. It calms down, something goes on. You must almost do something, a movement of something, or, well, you all know what it's like to, you have a sip of water, or one bite of something, and then all of a sudden that shifts and goes away. Hunger can also, as you look at it more subtly and spend time honoring it, like, what is this? What is this? Is that you can feel it sometimes as just this subtle feeling. To me, it's almost like a color, like a pink color through the body. It's just like the energy has gone down. Like a little, some fuel is necessary to burn the bulb brighter. You begin to feel it kind of within the body, and then it maybe even extends outside of the boundaries of your body. A feeling of hunger, even though you don't feel, that's just the way my experience has been, growling and intensity and wildness in the stomach. Often, even sometimes, that actually goes away. But you still are aware that you're hungry. So it's just kind of a weakness or maybe a faintness, sometimes lightheaded if you stand up, cold, a feeling of being a little cold or very cold, shivery, slightly like an energy buzzing through you. So you just begin to see what it is for you, what that feels like for you, hunger. Maybe it's kind of a numbness or a feeling of low, all those vibrations. The vibration has gotten really low, kind of flat. Fullness, same thing. So you slow down and study when you're eating. See what it feels like. It might feel like everything's centered in the stomach, physically right here, but like it begins to sort of get a sense of maybe warmth or like a stronger volume getting turned up throughout the body. Maybe it extends all the way up into your head, or kind of a flow across the chest of something being sort of supported, or energy being given, energy being filled, like a full gas tank. And that it's going to work with it. It's saying, yay, you gave me something. This is great. A full gas tank. And that you just feel like you can move about, and I don't know, something's very satisfied, grounded. Sometimes if you get super, super hungry, you eat something and it sort of pulls you down into the ground and you feel more solid. So just wonderful to study and sit and be and meditate with hunger and fullness, which is what you get to do as you look at the hunger scale and sense it and look at it and see what your thoughts are and what your feelings are about it. There's a whole world behind actually finding what your judgments are about hunger and fullness, how much you dislike hunger, or love hunger, or dislike fullness, or love fullness. People tend to have more propensity towards one or the other, and sometimes both sides. But you might find that you have actual judgments about these two states of body, and those are great to take through inquiry. All right. So enjoy just staying in between 3 and a 7. I am convinced, because I've done it myself for so many years and heard from other people as well. Maybe sometimes there needs to be a little bit of adjustment based on health and medical awareness and knowledge of the actual, chemical, molecular makeup of the food that you're eating. So the choices of food. We all know vegetables offer a lot of nutrients, and there's no denying things with the actual food. The range of foods is gigantic. But mostly overall, someone who stays in that hunger scale, who really taps into stopping eating when we're approaching a 7 and not really going over, and then stops, allows themselves to eat when you get down to a 3, and just feels what it is like to slow everything down and take bites and be with the food you're eating, and also feel the stomach, the one who's hearing and listening and receiving it all, which is the body. To stay in that with deep honoring, you will balance to a normal weight. So that's the wonderful news. And you can eat anything at all, for the most part. Of course, taking into account what I just mentioned. Sometimes there's a need to notice, I'm just simply not going to eat that stuff over there. It has a lot of chemicals and a lot of things in it that don't work for my body. The result just isn't good. That's okay too. But it's done out of joy and support. All right, let me know how it goes.